And profiteers, welcome back to Soaring Profits. As always, we got a Thursday night live with basically our special guest host that is always with us here now, old hat Justin. And Justin and his wife, Gio, who was here last week talking about some art, talking about, kind of independently running and operating her business and that sort of thing. They just got back from Brazil. So some of you that have been following us for a while now had us watch us interview Justin when we first started with these lives on Thursday night. And we are now following up with the promise that we had then to when they got back with this potential surf shop type business to follow up and see where it is. So Justin, thank you, sir. Appreciate having you back. How's everything been going?
Everything's been going great. Thanks for having me back, guys.
Awesome. Well, glad to have you. And it sounds like you guys have had some exciting travel stuff. The world's been kind of quickly moving around you folks.
Yeah. We were in Brazil for a bit. Kind of tied in a friend's wedding with going to look at the area for real estate for, as you know, after creating somewhat of a surf school hostel.
Love it.
Depends on really actually jump right into it, I guess. Yeah, one of the big lessons I learned now is because I was looking at this surf beach called Itamambuca, and it's
one more time. You got to say that one again. You got to say that one again for us that don't speak Portuguese.
It's called Itamambuca.
Itamambuca. Okay.
Yeah, it's really close to a city called Ubatuba, and at this beach there's world championship surf matches, all this kind of thing. But there's really quite ritzy houses that sit on the beach, as you can imagine. And then there was this downtown core. And then there was me going, oh, I want to make a surf hostel, right? Like just what the local residents wanted, right? Another, some shanty and messing up their town. So I quickly learned that maybe ideas have to change and evolve based on where you're going to put something like that,
Sure.
And so now it's grown to the surf boutique spa or eco spa, whatever, people
kind of make driving a little bit higher class for the area, so it's not so like hostel related. Hostel kind of has a negative kind of context, but when you say spa, people are like, oh, that's high end.
Yeah. Or people driving by just concerned for the environment, right? Because you're buying a plot of land and maybe possibly clearing a whole bunch of trees. So to use words like eco, take the ease off some people's minds, which
Well, Justin, you were saying just before we kind of got started here that going down there and visiting, one of the things that you were kind of shocked and a little bit, kind of profound about was, again, exactly that. And touch base a little bit about kind of the concept about if you're building, what kind of legalities, some of the rigmarole, the red tape, if you will, that you were kind of really concerned about jumping off into doing something like this.
Well, it's quite a lot. Just to cut a tree down, there's all kinds of, you have to get an environmental engineer out there. You have to submit applications through the city hall and their local environmental engineer and hopefully get approval. I've learned that this approval process can take anywhere from 3 years to never.
Wow.
So,
and that's upfront cost from you.
Yeah. And there's a lot of places that need to take their cut, essentially. So the city has a fee for clearing the land, as well as the environmental agency protecting it. And that environmental agency, there's probably 3 or 4 other NGOs that you have to pay off so that, they're happy and not going to try and shut you down either.
Right.
So, sorry. Some of it was understandable. They only wanted 50. You can only knock down 50% of the lot You can knock down more, but you have to reconstitute it into your final project, which is I think that's a great rule. But yeah, some of it was paying money to some organizations that are legit and you understand, and the other ones you're just going, this is just bribes.
Raise your hand.
You know, like I met with the environmental engineer, which was hilarious because he was also the chief of police and also the surf instructor himself. And we met him down at the police station, which was attached to this sports complex. And he was telling me my better bet was to go about it illegally.
Wow.
Was to buy the land, build a fence around it, and then just slowly start taking away trees. And that part didn't set well with me now. Like, you know, it was a risk before. Now it's even riskier. So coming to make that decision at the end of the day is only getting harder. It's not getting any easier.
Right.
This story reminds me. I was traveling in Chicago one time, and I ended up doing the architectural boat tour that they have there, where they take you down the river in Chicago, and you're looking up at all the big, beautiful skyscrapers. And as the tour guide's walking it down, and this is the such and such building built in such and such year by so and so, and this building was built on an eco preserve that they just started building on and had no permits, no nothing, and is technically an illegal build on stuff. And then it'd be the next one. It's like, and this one was built in this eco preserve that is technically an illegal build. I'm just like, all of these buildings are totally illegal, should have never been built, yet they're there, and they've been there for 150 years. What are you going to do about them now?
Yeah.
And it sounds like exactly like that. It sounds like it's almost just go do it. And when they come to you, you give them their bribe then and go away. Like,
there's an ethical thing about that. Like if you're like, I don't know if I'd want to go just clear a bunch of trees in another country to make a business. And then you have like the locals who are going to be your bread and butter during the off season. You don't want to piss them off either. So
exactly.
I think there's a little bit to it, but I get what you're saying. Like there's been some things here where contractors have just gone and done it and asked forgiveness later, and nothing happened to them.
And that it makes the decision harder for me because I'm in the same boat. I don't want to go and tear down a bunch of trees and just stick a business in the ground, right? Like,
so Justin, the property you're looking at, was it like, I imagine with what you're looking to do for a business that you're very close to the ocean?
Yeah. Right? 500 meters.
So with that situation, like I know in the States, you have organizations like OSHA, which are like, they're dealing with the ecological, but as well, like the labor aspect of things. Like they kind of deal with both. And the organization that you were dealing with, was it just a municipality, or did you have to deal with like a municipal and then a provincial and then like a federal? Like, was it like multi-layer?
So the application that you submit through the municipal section of it kind of covers all your bases for you, from a federal level to municipal level, and also paying off NGOs.
Yeah.
And that's where it gets tricky, because I understand the city hall fee, right? You're like, okay, you're employing an environmental engineer that's got to come out here, and he's got to be an environmental engineer because he's got to ensure that that you're not going to mess up the land. You're not building some chem plant or something, and that's good. I think that's necessary. But then what gets me is some of those NGO companies is like, well, you got to give us $400. It's like, well, why?
What are you doing?
What are you guys contributing? Like, oh, well, we go around and we make sure that everybody pays their $400. I just can't get behind that. Like I get it. I get paying the environmental engineer, but I don't.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So okay, so what's plan B then? Like, so obviously you're thinking of not building there now because there's a lot of hoops to jump through. Do you have like another like country or another space, or what are you thinking?
There is some areas along the coast that that are definitely, I think would be easier.
Right.
I think, and again, like I kind of had a wake up call with the whole, I want to build a hostel. And then I realized too, you know, like if I'm going to build something brand new, then it's not a hostel at all. It's brand new. It's a boutique hotel. It's not, you know, maybe 50 years down the road, it's a hostel, but, and then that got me thinking, oh, you know, a boutique spa hotel would jive well with the locals. And while I'm tearing down trees, maybe there'll be less eyes on the property kind of watching what I'm doing and making all kinds of environmental reports to which somebody comes in with a magnifying glass and throws my investment out the window. So yeah, we're looking at other places. And I'm also thinking of, you know, looking at communities and looking as to what it is that community needs as well.
Right.
There is a genius in Itamambuka. He started a bakery. Genius. There's not a bakery for the people that live on the beach there unless they drive 30-40 minutes in town.
I know. Yeah.
So, and bakery's a really popular place in Brazil from breakfast to lunch to getting your bread and all that stuff. So incredibly smart idea. And I'll say it, anybody willing to go down there and build a pharmacy, you know, that would perfect. It's just what they need.
Interesting.
Yeah, so I'm looking at communities and just seeing, you know, okay, like what can I bring to that community? Like, it's not about, you know, of course I want to start a surf school and everything else like that, but I more so want to be in the life. I don't need to teach somebody surfing, but if it's available close by for myself, then that's okay.
Sure.
Right.
I'll bake bread and surf every day. That's more than okay, right? Like, right. As long as, you know, like you said, like I'm contributing to what the locals also want.
Right.
Right. And locals being local surfers or local, you know, whatever you find.
A whole. If they need bread, if they need, you know, medications, if they need a priest, Justin's there.
Yeah.
That's right.
Well, that's the other cool thing is once you start a business that they need. Once you get a foothold and they start trusting you, you might do an event or two to get them like excited about who you are because you're a new guy, right? Once you do that, you can open up anything you want.
Right.
Like you could literally open a surf shop inside your bakery and they'll be like, yeah, man, you're great. Let's do it. You know, that's
exactly.
You know, like I was talking to, so I run with Running Life and I was running tonight and the business owner of Running Life, he goes around to these cross-country events and he sets up this big balloon thing with Running Life on it and he does all the timers. He gives all the kids the actual their trackers that track the time so you get the response rate on your phone, how fast you did the laps and all that stuff. And you know, it costs him a little bit, but people love it, you know, and he gives shoes to the homeless and he does all these things that are great for the community. But that allows you, once you're established like that allows you to do whatever the hell you want. You can start building and, you know, and once you're in, the government will probably be might look the other way a little bit for you. So yeah, no, I think that's a grand idea. I don't know, baking might be different. Baking art studio. That's a lot of early hours. I don't know if you ever made before, but it's a lot of early mornings.
Oh yeah.
Now, Justin, when you were down there, did you get a chance to go through much of the pricing of what land and that was costing down there?
Yeah.
So what's like the area where you are? What was that? Give us the kind of a description of what you had there as far as property, what that value and what that was going to look like.
So the area I was looking was a fairly expensive area. I think the one lot was about 600,000 AIs.
So 600, is it about 4-1? Is that roughly
4-1? Yeah, is the ratio. So for every million, about 250,000.
Wow.
So 600, maybe about 100, I don't know, 45 or
for a vacant parcel of land. And what kind of size was it?
It was 50 meters by 50 meters, so not big.
Well, yeah. So, but
so
just off the ocean.
500 meters from it.
So okay.
500 meters from it, but you have full access to it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, full access
for all. So the front of the beach there would be public. Is it like Canada? Because there's so many feet by the water that's public, no matter who owns it.
Yeah. Actually, Brazil's really interesting in that case. Nobody owns houses close to the beach.
Really?
Like, yeah. And actually, that land that's there, even if you could buy it, like, I'm looking at land and gonna have a hard time building something on it. Never. It'll never be allowed. You'll never be allowed to buy a lot right on the beach and build.
Really?
In this one spot, like, of course, people do have beach houses,
right?
But I think compared to the rest of the world, the houses in Brazil are much further back from the beach.
Right.
Again, maybe depending on the area. And in Tamambuca, they have a whole protected area for these, like, crabs, for example.
Crabs. Okay.
Yeah, it's like these little tiny crabs that are everywhere on the beach.
Sure.
Yeah, they're super cool. But yeah, so you can't build anywhere. I would say within like 2 blocks of the beach almost. It's so there's boardwalks you walk through that walk
Can you
through
have docks, though? Like docks out in front of your place?
Not there. Not there, no. It's actually Itamambuca, being one of the more famous surf beaches, you wouldn't have a dock that lasted there too long because the waves are crazy.
The waves, sure, right?
Yeah. So you pretty much have beach, and then you've got 2 blocks of nature preserve with boardwalks going through. And
nice.
Yeah, now you got a map. Nice.
Yeah, our tech guy is on it.
Nice.
Yeah. So you how far would you be from Sao Paulo?
From Sao Paulo is probably about a 4-hour, or Sao Paulo's closer, so probably about maybe 3 hours, 3.5.
So you're right in between Rio and Sao Paulo.
Yeah.
So the biggest town there is what?
The biggest town there is just below the red dot on the map, or yeah, right there. That's Itamambuca Beach. Okay. That's the town of Ubatuba.
Yeah, right here.
Yeah.
So it's like a bay. That's interesting.
Huh. Yeah.
So now, can you fly into there? Like, is there an international airport there, or are you flying into Sao Paulo? Or
you're flying into Sao Paulo would be the closest airport.
Okay. So now, when you guys took off, you left from YYZ Toronto. Obviously, that's not a direct flight, I would imagine.
Really? Yeah, it is. Yeah, it was for me. It wasn't for my wife.
Okay. You got the upgrade, eh? I see you got the upgrade. Worked out nicely.
Yeah, well, I had to buy my tickets at a separate time from her because I still have things to figure out at home. And then by the time I could buy the ticket, it was gone. So there's a direct flight. It's 10 hours from Toronto to Sao Paulo.
Yuck.
Wow.
Yeah. So we're roughly on this map here, kind of, left and right. Where were you looking?
So if you zoom in on the beach a little bit more.
Okay.
Back up. If you see where that Padang restaurant, a pizzeria is, it's in the orange writing.
Right here?
Oh, top. Yeah.
Yeah. So that road there is the commercial area.
Okay.
So all the lots that are in that area are all zoned commercial. And then as you come down closer to the beach, that's all residential.
We're going.
Nice. Here we are. Nice.
So that would be the security gate as you drive through.
So it's a gated community?
It's a gated community, yep. Even the commercial area is gated as well. You can just drive on in, nobody stops you.
So it's not gated so there's other communities that I've heard about that they have like armed guards.
Oh yeah. Yeah, no, definitely do.
Yeah.
It's this area, I would say it's like so I think you're probably on the residential road.
So this is taking me back, I think, right? Towards.
Yeah, if you were to go up towards that pizzeria, see how you're on the Y?
Oh, okay.
If you go back up that road there, you'll be able to see it. It's a very small commercial section. There's actually not much built there right now. They have they have the bakery, an ice cream shop, a lone surf shop, and maybe a couple of restaurants. So keep going. This right there, that's the security gate for the residential area.
Okay.
So just up here is the commercial area.
What would be the population of that area?
Oh, I don't know. Probably a couple hundred.
Oh,
probably.
Wow.
Yeah, it's not very big.
Yeah. And touristy, like do tourists go there?
Yeah. In the surf season, this area would be absolutely packed.
Okay.
That's the bakery that's all blurred out right there.
Right.
But yeah. Actually, the property I was looking at is actually just up the street.
Let's go.
Let's go see it. Are we giving away trade secrets though? Like, I don't want someone to take it from you.
You know what? To be honest, I'm not very considerate. It's just down that road that you're looking down the left there. Yeah. Wow, like it's way so pretty much right there on your right hand side.
Right.
It was one of the lots, and on your left was another two. But it's all trees right now.
That's a lot of clearing to do.
That's a lot of trees.
Yeah.
If you're talking one tree, man, that would cost a bundle. Yeah. But you know what? Like in this town that we're in right now, I don't know if it was last year or this year. So you used to be able to do whatever you want with your trees on your property. Like if you needed to cut one down, you just go trim it, cut it down. But like Pat, correct me if I'm wrong. Now you can't even cut off a major branch without getting permission.
Yeah, they more and more. So a lot of municipalities in our area are using foliage like trees on their balance sheets, which is very weird. So they've been able to articulate a value for a tree, and therefore they can borrow against that as an asset. So the municipality owns anything within a certain parameter from the road, the middle of the roadway to, they're called easements. So they own, if you have a sidewalk and a boardwalk, a sidewalk, and then usually your front lawn kind of thing, right? That's a stereotypical street. Usually anything that's within that sidewalk and about 2 to 3 feet is kind of a rule of thumb, they own. So if you have a tree there, if you have anything there, that's their property. So over the years, we have these big mature communities that have these big, beautiful trees on them. And they are now an asset of the municipality where they're able to say, we own this. If we want to tear it down and we want to sell the lumber, if we want to use it for whatever, that's a value to us. And therefore, we can borrow against it for different things. So it's a very weird process. Yeah. To me, it makes more sense that you don't want them, because in a storm, when they knock somebody's house down, then you go and you knock on the door and you're like, hi, your thing broke my house.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit counterintuitive that way, but maybe that's why they do it too. Who knows, right?
Yeah.
But
yeah, I just know that. So my neighbor here had a huge, beautiful tree that they wanted gone. It was just it was causing a lot of problems. So they knocked it down legally. But because they did it legally, now they got like the sapling growing because
they had to do it.
You have to plant a sapling after you knock down a tree. And it's like, but they don't want it. So I don't know.
No, and that was my situation on one of my properties. I had the same thing. I had that emerald ash tree bug that got into it, killed it.
Right.
It was there for forever. And then they came and they planted 2 little saplings that look ridiculous. It was a big tree. Then they put 2 of these little things, and it's like, they look like 2 sticks hanging out of the ground. Like it's just not a thing, but no.
Yeah, as well. It's interesting that it sounds like it's harder to build a business in Brazil than it is in Canada, but we're starting to do all these things as well now.
Right.
Know that you can't you said OSHA, whatever it is. What's that company?
OSHA in the States, yeah.
Yeah. So there's one in Canada. So I was talking to someone who was building a cottage. And so they have a small cottage that's within like you could like flip a stick and you hit the water. But because they're so close to the water, they can build up, but they have to stay within the footprint of their original cottage because it's grandfathered. So they literally had to build a cottage inside this dinky, area because that's all the space it could get, which I guess is great because the closer you are to the water, the worse off the worse it is for the environment. But I just thought it was kind of funny that here was this brand new, beautiful cottage about the size of an old rundown cottage from like 100 years ago.
Right.
It was wild. Yeah, it's pretty cool. So politics in Brazil, you guys were talking about it before so there's a new guy or an old guy on the scene. I don't know a lot about it, but you guys know all about it, and it sounded interesting. So why don't you give us a little rundown, either one of you, and let's see. Tell me a little bit about Brazilian politics.
Pretty interesting. Yeah, so there's two old guys in the running. I should say there's Bolsonaro up for re-election, and Lula, previously president. Already, I don't know if you guys knew that.
Yeah. Gio is kind of filling us in a little bit about it, and that's so I knew. Say his name again because I call him Bolasaros, but it's not
It's Bolsonaro.
Bolsonaro, okay.
Bolsonaro and Lula. He's got a long name. It's like Louis. Yeah. Lula da Silva.
Right.
But yeah, man, I mean, quite the subject, especially in Brazil. Yeah. A lot of the people I met in Brazil, they're very divided. It's actually the division they see in their country has been going on a lot longer than it's been going on in our own.
Right.
Ever since their democracy is new too, right? Like they haven't had a democracy all that long. It's just over 30 years or so. And it wasn't too long after that there was all kinds of crap happening. I don't know if you're familiar with the car wash scandal.
Well, Gio kind of gave us a rough little piece of it. Yeah, and I looked a little bit into it, but it seems very... Yeah. So to me, as someone who follows politics, it looks like kind of one of those like bullshit media things that the other guy had more clout in the newspaper, so they ran some bullshit story, and it turned into something.
So explain the car wash thing for us people that are politics.
Okay, all right. It's quite a big mess. So it involved Petrobras, which is Brazil's biggest oil producer. And it involved, there was 156 people convicted in connection with car wash. The amount of money that was laundered makes Watergate look like a joke. I'm not kidding. A joke. It was the biggest corruption scandal in history that involved everything from human slavery to you name it, like tortures and murders and bribes, and Lula kind of at the center of it, really. Okay. So there's two sides of the story, right? And on the one side, people, when they talk about Lula, they go, oh, well, how convenient was this for Bolsonaro to have this guy in jail, because it makes it easier for him to win this election. And then there's a lot of other figures that get attacked, like I think is Sergio Moro, I think his name was the judge that found him guilty the first time, I should say, because he's Lula, who has been found guilty twice of this government corruption and embezzlement and all this stuff. I guess in a nutshell, what was happening was Lula's construction companies were doing contract work for Petrobras, and they were using those companies to launder money. And one of these companies gave Lula like a $1.5 million house. So they were able to track that and money and bribes. And all this sort of thing. So they opened up the car wash investigation. Lula's name, they found him, came across him, arrested him. And they had a current president, Dilma, that was sitting in office. And it's funny that some people call it a scam, because I really don't think it is or was at all. Okay. I think what Lula's done in the last few years should scare the shit out of everybody. Because basically what happened is he got arrested. He got caught on a phone call talking to Dilma, the president, and the president told him, "Listen, you're not gonna sit in jail. We're gonna get you out of there. These charges, I'm the president. You're fine." So, little to Dilma's knowledge, that phone call was recorded, which actually started the impeachment process of Dilma, the president, who was eventually impeached for not only that phone call but her involvement with the car wash scandal. So Lula was charged and found guilty. What Lula then did is he went to the Supreme Court, and he was found guilty. Then he was found guilty again in a separate court. Lula ran his appeal through the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court ruled that anybody convicted of a non-violent crime doesn't have to sit in jail, essentially.
If you're
and you're pretty much innocent until proven guilty. So until Lula's appeals run out, he can keep running for president.
Wow.
Even though he's been found guilty twice. Yeah. And the evidence to prove him guilty is 100%. It's not a question of if he's guilty or not. It's a matter of the Supreme Court ruled that he can stay out of jail pretty much until his appeal process exhausts itself, which could be 30 years. It could be never if he gets president. If he becomes president, he could just wipes his own slate clean.
Right.
So in this situation, Justin, okay, so politically, I'm kind of the conservative guy. I align much more with Bolsonaro. Bolsonaro. I align much more with him. My issue is, and I guess it's part of my political stream, no matter what I look at, is I go, this wasn't the first guy that's corrupt. He ain't going to be the last guy. You're kind of picking you're trying to pick the lesser of two ends of a snake here, right?
100%.
Right. So do you end up in a situation where Lula, who, if he ends up getting in, he's much more labor, he's much more liberal, he's much more that type of what we would call liberal, or he's even more like an NDP candidate, if you'd ask me. And from what I've read about him, right now in the geopolitical world that it is, that's a scary prospect. A country like Brazil that is really in a position to really take over after kind of some of the falls that we're seeing around the world geopolitically. Justin, who would you align yourself with politically out of the two kind of parties?
Politically, I'm a conservative myself as well. So I really do. I align with Bolsonaro.
Yeah.
Can't say I like him. I mean,
sure.
But for me, liking somebody has never really come into the whole geopolitical process. Really, it's whoever's taking care of poverty the most quickly and efficiently and leaving me to my business. Right. And, I think he does. A lot of people in Brazil right now are terrified. On the one side, the people that are on Bolsonaro's side, they're terrified because of what's happening to South America, Venezuela, and Venezuela, as well as. Anyways. Why did that? Argentina. Sorry, Argentina. Their countries are just like economically have really gone down the pipes, right? And Brazil's hanging on by a thread, right now. And actually, to anybody who's interested, whereas inflation in the rest of the world has been a very steep rising line. In Brazil, it's still riding a pretty solid line. Like they've been tackling inflation a hell of a lot better than the rest of the world.
Right.
A hell of a lot better. Have they had their increases?
A lot of that is probably due to commodity pricing, right? Like they're a mass exporter, a net exporter of a lot of the commodities that most nations import. So when you're importing most of your goods, inflation hits you that much harder because you're buying them, first of all, in American dollars. That's why the American dollar is skyrocketing right now, is because you have all these countries that are trading in it to buy commodities. Whereas Brazil, it's funny because I had this conversation a couple talks ago, and it was about the rise of South American nations, and Brazil and Mexico are two that are on my map as far as, the next 25 years. As we see that deterioration in China, we need manufacturing, right? And as we have this, Mexico right now, you're about, realistically, you've got a situation where Mexico's only been about 30 years as a developed nation, right? So you have a population that is still strong. You don't have a demographic where people are all living in major cities. They're coming into that as they industrialize, but the demographics haven't inverted. And Brazil's the same. They've got a great population. They're industrious. They have the raw materials and resources. Brazil has a super bright future over the next 20 years. They just can't fuck it up.
With the right leadership.
Absolutely.
Right.
You need a leadership that wants to bring in business and is business friendly. If you pick a leadership like we often do in Canada, it's not so business friendly. I'm a liberal, but I understand the need for bringing business to Canada. And we often pick leaders that don't bring business to Canada. We make like so many hoops for them to jump through. It's kind of frustrating.
Justin's a great example of that.
Totally. Yeah.
Right? You got a guy here who's willing to come down to your country, and he goes in and talks with the police chief, who's the doctor, who's the nurse, who's the priest, all the things.
Librarian.
Yeah. Can't get a permit to do X, Y, and Z without paying $1 bajillion.
Yeah.
That's killing your nation. That is problematic.
Yeah.
So that's
because there's another business that could have came in, would have given some jobs, would have brought people to the country to see it, and probably would have brought in other businesses into that community if yours is successful, right? Once you start that. Yeah. So that would be frustrating. So you guys are both back in Balls and Arrow, even though he's a criminal. You guys like the criminal?
I mean, here's the thing, though. He hasn't been charged or convicted of anything.
Right.
Of anything. Like, do I think he's guilty of speaking out against gay rights and stuff like that? Yes. Do I agree with that? Absolutely not. Not at all. Do gays have rights in Brazil? Yes. Is he actively trying to take them away? No.
Okay. So,
he's just a man with different values, really.
Right.
Is he imposing those values on the people? No. He's not actively trying to either make gay marriage illegal or, I know he gave some really rude comments to Ellen Page not too long ago. Back when she was a woman, he was hitting on her and like just completely inappropriately.
Yes.
And
do you find
all that thing? All that aside, economically, is the country doing good things? 100%. It's doing really good things. So it's really hard to
So I agree with you. Like, I think a person's opinion is their opinion. If you don't believe, like, I personally believe in gay rights, I believe in gay marriage, I believe in all that. But if there's a politician that's doing a really good job or a lawyer that's doing a really good job, and they are not forcing those opinions in their work, they're not like actively seeking to limit gay people from getting married or having children or anything like that. They just feel in a certain way. There's nothing wrong with that. I feel a lot about things that I'm sure people don't agree with, right? But
this is the playbook.
and you're saying over and over again, being gay is an abomination, and you're in a political leadership, that's almost as bad as actively. It's pretty close to as bad as actively, because you're leading a country and you're supposed to be the guiding light for that country. And if you're at the head of a country saying gay people are an abomination, or whatever he said, which is fairly close to the things he's saying, you're still limiting, because you're rising up the people that are against gay rights and you're giving them a voice that's higher than others. I don't know if that makes sense, but
100%. And as much as I don't like it, right? I would just rather him at the end of the day than somebody guilty of the biggest government corruption scandal in the world. Right?
Yeah.
But like, isn't it literally the playbook? Like, so the left guy, he's corrupt, right? That's what the right say, is that he's corrupt. Hillary Clinton, she's corrupt. The emails, all the servers, all that sort of thing. Trump's a misogynist, racist piece of shit. Pierre Poilievre today comes out and he's now a misogynist. Justin Trudeau is corrupt and is going like it's just there. It doesn't matter. You take that talking head and you replace it with this talking head, but the parties still attack, and it doesn't matter. We are in two-tier systems. You either have the left or you have the right, and the right attacks this and the left attacks this, and their base goes, yeah, fuck him. And the other one goes, yeah, fuck him. And nothing gets done because you have these pull aparts where, again, and I'm very anti-government on so many fucking levels. But once you divide the people and you have them battling, you can do anything the fuck you want. You can be the most corrupt, or you can go after the like, I really don't think that there's any nation in the world that gives a shit about your gender expression or who you have sex with. Like, I really don't. I just don't think it's a thing anymore. 50 years ago, yeah, we just don't have the religious undertones in our nation anymore, or any Western society to be like, well, fuck, they're going to start throwing them off the bridge again, man. Which is not a thing. But it's the constant battle, right? It sells a lot of newspapers, right? So that's what I struggle with.
There's still countries that don't allow people to be gay.
You want to talk about where they are, James?
Sure. Yeah.
You want to talk about where they are?
Mexico. When was that? That was 5-6 years ago. I was in Mexico Cuba. I was in Cuba with a buddy of mine, and I dressed flamboyantly. I don't know if anyone knows that. I dressed metrosexually, I believe it's called. And this young man and his boyfriend came up, and he started chatting with me, and I was having a great time. We were having a cigar and a whiskey, and at the resort. And he's like, "Yeah, we got to be careful, eh?" And I'm like, "Careful what? Like, it's a great place. It's awesome." He's like, like us, we have to be careful. I'm like, no, I don't know what you mean. He's like, well, in the pamphlet here, it says that, don't like hold hands with another man. Don't do this, another man. Because if you're caught in Mexico in public, and this is a pretty nice place, the police could arrest you and you could be beaten up and all this stuff. And I said, well, I'm not gay, but like, that's terrible. But it was in an act. He showed me this pamphlet that it actually said on it.
So if you were to walk down the road in Mexico, you were where?
Ixtapia at the time. And this was 5-6 years ago. So maybe it's changed.
Well, no, I'm not even saying that. I'm saying if you are down there in that area and you walk a mile off of the boardwalk, if you will, and you've got your cell phone and you've got your ear pods in and you've got your watch and you've got your wallet. Yeah. There's a very real chance that someone in a Jeep with a machine gun on the back that's going to come and take all of that from you. Doesn't matter if you have sex with people or not.
But in the area that we were in, Pat, it wasn't like that. Like, so we went out, we traveled around by ourselves. We went to Havana. We did a whole bunch of stuff, and we're never harassed. But this couple talked about how it could possibly, like, it was in a pamphlet that warned them about it. So I assume it's a thing. Whereas I wasn't at any point bothered, harassed at any point. So just saying that in some countries it's still a thing. It just is. In Canada, you're absolutely right. I don't think it's a thing. I think there's probably some people that are anti-gay or whatever, but I don't think it's like we're going to be throwing them off bridges, like you said. And in Canada, it is definitely talking points. It's more to divide, and you're absolutely right. When you divide a country, you can get away with anything because you're so busy talking about, oh, the conservatives, Poilier is going to take away gay rights.
He's going to be a prime minister soon, so
he is going to. You're absolutely right. Yes, he is going to be prime minister soon. But yeah, I have to learn our emperor's name. But yeah,
Supreme Dictator.
It's A-H-E. Yeah.
Can't I just say Supreme Dictator? Like, do I really need to know his name? I just need to know the hand sign, I believe.
Right.
Some of Gio's friends in Brazil, they'd be like, what's with your prime minister, Justin Trudeau? I'm like, oh, you mean our supreme leader? And like, dying laughing. They're dying laughing. They're seeing what's happening in their news, and they're like, what?
Crazy.
Is he supposed to stand with your protesters? What's going on? Like,
yeah.
Well, it's very different. Like historically down there, like we talk about populism up here, but Central America and South American politics is literally populism, right? Like they overthrew like empires from afar and rose up as populist governments, and they're standing around going like, you mean like most of the people want this? That's fucking democracy. We're here in like, we'll call it North America. We look around and we go, oh, that's a populist agenda. It's like, that's fucking democracy, bro. Like, I don't get the difference. Like, I don't. Anyways, I could go on this shit for hours. Yeah. I just think the media is so crazy anymore. Nuts.
I think that's one of the reasons why. You brought up actually a great point about inflation and how Brazil's just so very self-sufficient,
right,
and doesn't take too many imports. But I really think the people decide how much you're going to charge for cost of products too.
Right.
I mean, the cost of rice in Brazil went up 2%, and they took to the streets. They weren't fucking having it.
Yeah.
And there you go. Okay, we're sorry. We'll back off. And it's a great example when a bunch of ants stand up, like compared to that, like.
And I can't say that enough, Justin, is that, whether right, wrong, or indifferent, wherever you were politically on the truck rally, the way that the media went after them in Canada was disgusting. And what it did is it planted this seed of extremism that if you stand up and you argue at all, or politically you differentiate from the mass media perspective of what you're supposed to do, then you are an extremist and you will be handled. It's fucking insane. And my concept about the whole thing is that I just don't know at what point as Canadians anymore, like what is our breaking point? Like where do we stand up and go, gas that we pull out of a whole province, we're getting absolutely hammered at cost of gas, and we're just accepting it.
Well, also our wheat, our meat, all the stuff we produce,
right,
is astronomical right now, and we produce it. It makes no sense. We're not importing it, right?
But we've tied ourselves to economic patterns and organizations around the world that are not about nationalism; they're about globalism. And that our oil needs to go around the world and be controlled by OPEC. Side note, OPEC cut 2 million barrels a day production today. Good luck filling your car in the next month. Good luck heating your home in the next month. Like,
are your viewers familiar with OPEC's pricing and how they determine it?
Well, probably. So I don't think specifically. Go ahead.
Yeah.
No, just it's just an interesting point that OPEC they decide based on their reserves how much the cost of a barrel of oil is, right, and they can pull those numbers from whatever they want. There is no market to it. They're just deciding. They're just pulling a number out of their ass. That's the science. That's the logic behind OPEC's.
The super scary part about that is that OPEC right now cutting production. The reason they're doing it is that they are not satisfied with the price per barrel where it is right now, because they're so under attack internationally with all of the green initiatives, and they realize that they have about 25 to 50 years left of oil production period, and that they will not allow a cheap oil. Well, right now we have China theoretically at about a 50% capacity of what they've ever been in the last 30 years.
Yeah.
Take 2 million barrels a day production off and try to ramp up China. It's $150, $200 a barrel oil, which now calculates with all the greens. We just went through a whole new green set of taxes in Ontario and in Canada. So that now takes us to a $3 a liter price at the pumps. How do you do that? Like, this is how, as a government who are supposed to be populous, right? A democracy. How do you fucking represent your people and go, no, you don't really need to eat. You don't really need to drive your car to work.
Heat your home? No.
It's winter. It's fine.
But tell me the government right? No, it's scary stuff. It's scary stuff.
It also the fact that they're not taking away the eco tax on fuel and eco tax, like the eco tax on fuel is affecting everything. It's affecting transporting our goods. It's affecting everything. Like, if they just pulled that back, it would help us.
And it's one of those situations where they're just taking money for nothing.
Yeah.
Or we're going to create a carbon tax. Great. What are you doing with it?
Yeah.
Oh, they're giving it back, Justin.
They're giving us back. Yeah, I got
more government programs. This is great.
Yeah. No, they were supposed to be eco programs to green energy and to lower emissions, but no, I got to check back. So
green energy is the biggest scam that we've ever swallowed in our whole life. I used to work in. I was an electrician before my whole business venturing, and I used to install solar panels and solar tracking systems and all the rest. And biggest scam we got going.
Germany.
Environmentally friendly? Absolutely not.
Yeah,
absolutely not. The wind turbines, and have you seen the fields where they bury the propellers of the wind turbines?
No.
Yeah, we can't recycle the fins on those wind turbines. We bury them under the ground, and they're not biodegradable, by the way. So they just sit there and rot.
That's
green energy, my ass.
Well, so
really,
my big issue on green energy, and
have your tech guy look it up. They got pictures on Google of just these massive fields of all the fins from the wind turbines just buried under the ground. So they got nowhere else to put it. It's a big huge scam.
And then I was looking into batteries. Apparently, the batteries they use to store all this power takes years and years and years to just take care of. Like, it's way worse than nuclear energy.
Have you heard the term blood battery yet?
No.
You're familiar with the term Blood Diamond?
Yes.
Great movie with
yes.
There you go. There's the wind turbine wings. You think that next time you think that's nice and environmental, just know that that's the crap we bury under the ground.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, so for me,
solar panels, even worse. We don't have the technology to separate them, to recycle them either. Guess what? They go in a landfill.
Well, so the big thing for me about all of the green technologies, the first and foremost one for me is Germany, right? So Germany now has been a nation for years and years and years who has been super dependent on Russia for natural gas and oil coming into their So Germany, the profiteers have been following me. I've been ranting and raving about this for a while, but those of you that haven't heard this,
Germany, big talking points for Pat.
Well, but they're failing right now. So Germany had a production capacity of about 120% of their needs via the wind and solar that they had put in. Okay. So 120% capacity would be, hey, they are completely sufficient. They should be good. Well, Russia invades Ukraine. They're going to shut down the Nord Stream 1, 2 pipelines. And we're finding out now that this 120% now realistically looks like 10%. They've spent billions of dollars in creating these green programs and processes and funding all of this. And now they are facing a winter for the first time that communities, very metropolitan communities, are being told to stock up on firewood. Wow. Germany is about to fall off the map. And the problem is that if the industrial centers of Germany cannot retain power, you're going to see a massive pullback in industrialization, and they will never recover from that because they theoretically have no new source. Like when Russia cut them off with the bombing of the Nord Stream 2 that just happened, there is no other, like,
it wasn't a bombing. It was an accidental accident of some sort.
No, even
sabotage carried out by the U.S. government. What are you talking about?
Even the craziest people,
they were just turning it off, and
don't know who.
No.
Sorry, go ahead, Pat.
Well, so long story short, what we have now is we have Germany falling off the map as far as production. Well, and like for me, it'd make more sense to me if you are Russian to just go to the wall and go, no more oil. Opposed to going, we have to do a very secret underwater bombing campaign to bomb our own pipes. Like just go.
Yeah.
Now we're in a situation where Biden is in, he's saying we're willing to ship liquid natural gas to try to keep them on the lights on. Yeah. But at what price? Right? The cost of liquid natural gas shipped across the ocean by vessel is going to be a stopgap at best and exponentially higher in cost. How's your green? Let me know how your green works.
It's also way worse for the environment, way more dangerous. 100%. There's so much more than a pipeline provides. And I agree with you. Like, why would Russia bomb their own pipeline? Like, that makes no sense. Like, I don't think Putin's afraid of going, no, you get no more gas. Like, I don't think that's it, or you get no more oil. I don't think it's something that he's worried about. But I do kind of tend to believe that someone messed with it, blew it up. But it's only going to hurt the people that need it. Like, even I was watching something where Britain is going to have to turn on some coal plants to keep the winter, because they're affected too. It's a wild thing. It's going to be an interesting thing this winter. It's very poor timing, and like you're saying, now that they're cutting back barrels of production, wouldn't that just make it worse? Like, if the oil pipeline is off, they're cutting back on barrels. Like, it just sounds like it's not going to be a great winter for anybody.
It is. And this is the problem. I've got a friend of mine who's talking about taking a trip to Germany. And I said to him, where are you going? She's like, Berlin. I'm like, I wouldn't.
Right.
What do you mean? I'm like, well, the first part that comes is we don't have enough heat. Then we don't have enough light. And then we're riding in the streets. Like, the social unrest facet, right? It becomes kind of ridiculous.
If Russia invades, that means tanks or troops crossing the border of Ukraine again. Then there will be no longer a Nord Stream 2. We will bring an end to it.
This was in February.
How will you do that exactly? Since the project and control of the project is within Germany's control.
Key.
We will. I promise you, we'll be able to do it. If Russia invades, means tanks.
So he just said that he's going to bomb the pipeline, I believe.
The border.
It's kind of got that feel, doesn't it?
Again.
Yeah.
And, was that was 2 weeks ago? That clip?
Sorry, buddy.
When was that clip taken?
In February, before the invasion.
In February, because I know that the U.S. had also made a threat, I think just 2 weeks ago, before the actual striking of the pipeline too.
Really?
So yeah. And it wouldn't be the first time the US has sabotaged the pipeline either. They've done it before in the past. And I think it was back in the 80s or something like that.
But they haven't claimed responsibility or said anything about it.
No, I think they were waiting for the media to pin it on Russia first.
Right.
Yeah, which they did.
Yeah.
In fact.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah.
No,
unfortunately, we end up in a situation where you've got a crazy situation going on around the world right now. There's some great stuff in regards to some of the economics that are changing, and I love this stuff. But we are literally transitioning to a new world order. Like we are seeing the fall of China. Like we've never seen a nation that powerful in a heartbeat theoretically disappear.
Yeah, so the only one that did was Greece, wasn't it? Didn't Greece?
Yeah, but like fall of Rome, fall of Greece, like those took hundreds of years.
Yeah.
Say that again, James. Sorry.
I know they're smaller and they don't have as big of a footprint because they're not mass producers and they're not. But those are the things that come to mind when I think of countries fall apart.
Well, so the fall of Rome, when you have the fall of Rome and you look at history, so they did what we're doing now. They looked at increasing their currency. They didn't have a set standard. They had inflation running. The societal norms that went away, and then they were invaded, right? So the Mongol at the gate, and after the fall of Rome was the Dark Ages for the next 300 fucking years.
Right.
When you have that pivot in geopolitical constructs where China manufacturing goes up, we are a consumer world. So there's only two things. It's not like, hey, yeah, we'll just make it next door. We'll get all our socks made in Toronto now, right? It's either you don't fucking have them ever again, or you pay 500 times more for them.
Right.
It's not a thing. We cannot survive this in the world that we have made. It's a catastrophe, and it's fucking artificial.
You're definitely not going to get the young people in Canada to do any manufacturing. Like you can't get them to work at Tim Hortons now. You can't get them to work at you can't get them to work at a department store or even a bar. Like where they're getting tons of tips. Well, they're not making enough money. Well, they're getting like $200 to $300 a night in tips, but it's not enough. It's too hard. It's too this. It's too that. Like it's just we do not have the work ethic anymore. I was talking about this with a woman today, and like when I was a young kid, I was like 12 when I had my first job, but it was all about work. And the concept now, so it used to be the concept of growing up as a guy. It was you're going to get a good job to make a lot of money. It does not matter if you're happy. It does not matter if you enjoy it. Your job is to finance your family and make sure they have a bright, bright future. And now when you talk to these younger people, it's about joy and happiness. And it's not about making money. It's about just being happy. But they don't want to work for it. It just seems like that. I may be wrong, but if you look around even our small community or Toronto, businesses are having a hard time fulfilling their need, let alone if you're going to get them to start building the sock. I don't know how you do it now. I think you have to change a lot of stuff. Are you finding something there online there, Justin?
Actually, no. I just ordered this book. It's about the changing world order. It's by Ray Dalio.
He just stepped down.
Oh yeah,
Ray Dalio just stepped down Tuesday.
Oh shit!
So Dalio was 100% a long China guy. Like he believed wholeheartedly that China was going to be the new rise, and it's not happening. So all of this new world order that theoretically he talks back historically over, like you have the Dutch, like the Dutch East India Company, and you have the rise of Britain and fall of Britain, the rise of America, the fall of America. China would be next, right? And he has spent billions. He is one of the largest hedge fund investors in the history of humanity. And he has been incredibly right up until now. Yeah. And he has been right incredibly up until now. And I think he's in a situation where his worldview has become problematic. He's probably had a little bit of, push, being like, we are very fucked in China. What do we do now? And I think I think he's old enough now that he's just, I'll retire. I'm going to kind of do that. But he is a very smart guy, called the last 30 years almost to a T. Didn't see COVID, I don't think, coming. That would have the geopolitical fallout where China wouldn't allow any COVID. And it's crushed China. China will not survive this. Crazy.
Well, I guess you're saying that we should go get this book and learn about why nations should fail.
Well, so it's a cycle, right? Everything. We go back to Rome, right? The rise and fall of nations. A lot of it comes back to what we're doing right now with inflation, and they do it to finance wars. They finance trade, but they devalue their currency. But then when you have, so if you own a shipping company for the Dutch East Indian Trading Company, that's a Dutch funded center, and you own a shipping company and you're going to India and you're going to China and you're bringing spices back, when they print more money, you get that money, right? You profit. Well, as that continues to print and print and print, you get social inequality. So as that social inequality rises, you have social constructs at home that say, well, fuck that rich guy. And he's like, work harder, fucker. And they're like, fuck you. And then you have this tear of the fabric of society, fall of nation, new nation rides in, whether it be militarily, up until now, every time it's happened, it's been militarily. So you have the Dutch that were conquered by the British with their navy. Then you had the fall of Britain after World War II, where the Americans came in because they were the last ones standing here like, we got the biggest dick and the biggest gun. So we're taking over now. And then China they're trying. I now don't think they can be.
Yeah.
They were on the trajectory to be the military superpower as well as the economic superpower. The problem is that they never got over the hump of the U.S. The U.S. pulled the plug on them. And now it's, I think, a deteriorating society.
Well, I think we should leave it at that. I don't know about all that stuff, but China is definitely not doing well. Our economy is not doing well. That's evident everywhere. With our fuel prices rising and all our costs rising, we do really need to have some really strong governments. And I think, even though I'm a liberal, I would lean towards a conservative government at this time, because I really don't think people like Justin Trudeau can do anything, let alone run us into like a prosperity in the future.
I challenge you, instead of saying that you need good government, say, I don't need any government. I need the government to fuck off and to get out of my pocket and to let me do what I want, and where I can go and travel and set up my business and not have to pay ridiculousness. I challenge you to think that way instead of going, we need a better government who's going to solve my problems.
Well, likely when I start my first business, I will feel exactly that way.
How was your tax information?
Yeah, that is true. I get taxed to shit. But yeah, no, definitely your ideas change. Like when I was younger, I was much more liberal than I am today. Your ideas change the more you learn about the world, and the more you see, and the more you do in the world, the more the government takes from you. Absolutely. Justin, it is always a pleasure. Thank you very much for sharing about your business. I look forward to hearing about what the next steps are for you. Hopefully you find a spot for your spa, and Soaring Profits are the first guests maybe. And I'd be happy to come down and
we can work a sponsorship.
We'll do a live on location.
Deal.
I love it. Yeah. I'll get microphones, camera crew. We'll get Gerald in the van to come down.
That's it. Awesome. Justin, as always, pal, thank you so much for sticking around with us today. I love chatting with you. I love that you're down there. We should have done one of these when you were actually down there. That would have been awesome. But thank you for letting us in and, a little bit of this journey that you're going on. I appreciate it. And I know James does, and all the profiteers do as well. So I'll thank you. And awesome. as always, we got to get a little clip here at the end, right? You got to give some words of wisdom. So always, folks, Profiteers, thank you again. Hopefully that was, an interesting conversation, traveling the world a little bit. And we just enjoy having this. Thanks, folks. Let's make some money together, guys.
Profiteers out there, thanks for joining us. These Thursday Night Lives have always been enlightening for me. Like, I learned so much about politics and just life in general. And it's always a pleasure to have someone as talented as Justin there. And I know he's on for brighter, beautiful things. And as always, let's heal our minds, bodies, and souls together.
Right on. Well, thanks for having me, guys. I can't wait to share the next part of my adventures with you. And to anybody else that hasn't found it, keep looking.
I love it. That's perfect. That's a great little send off.
Keep on working.